Devlin, Untamed. The Platform.
Martin Devlin, Lachlan Waugh saying hello, welcome to the podcast. That's called iOS It's Only Sport, available only on the Platform. What is the Platform? It's 9 hours of free independent media every day. This is the only daily sports show in this country independent of the mainstream media. You can subscribe to Platform Plus, keep us all in gainful employment if you so wish, and also enjoy all the other benefits you get as a subscriber to the Platform. Today on the show, big Super Bowl preview. It's coming Monday, of course, and that's the San Francisco 49ers, slight favourites against the Chiefs. Well, joining us on the show today, and you're going to hear from him on this podcast, Randy Cross, who won 3 Super Bowl rings with the 49ers back in the 1980s. As well as that, Greg Martin, Marto, breakfast host, Triple M in Brisbane, former Wallaby. He joins us every Thursday. He's on this podcast as well. ARU, Andy Raymond, Unfiltered. Plenty of league news to talk about. Miles Davis going blah, blah, as he does every week. We'll look at the Six Nations upcoming fixtures and, of course, back at that thrashing of a very, very poor South African supposed test side. We begin, as always, tablets in hand. I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. South Africa, you are pretty poor. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
South Africa, you are a shambles. What a second-rate, low-rent excuse for a test cricket side that you are. Second-rate? Well, that's actually high praise. The reality is you're a provincial New Zealand side at best, and that's not even our best provincial side. 56 players they left home to play this oh-so-essential T20 franchise comp. Now, put that in a New Zealand perspective. We have 6 provincial sides. Remove 9 players and make those the very best 9 players from each of your teams, and with what you have left, now form a Black Caps national side to leave and tour South Africa to play test cricket. Obviously, it's not an exact apples versus apples comparison because they have a deeper player pool than us to draw from. A sheer weight of population numbers determines that. But in terms of actual ability, class, experience, international quality, you're getting reasonably close. What I saw yesterday in the 4th day run chase was some of the worst batting I've ever seen in Test cricket. Cross-batted slogs, no technique at all involved, just guys trying to wog and slog the leather off the ball, hit it as hard as possible, and hope that sheer strength is going to beat the fielder and make the fence. It's backyard cricket. It's beach cricket. It is as removed as it ever could be from what you need in terms of application, focus, ability to play test cricket. This South African side deserve to be ridiculed for what they are, a bunch of second-rate nobodies pretending to be Proteas. And hey, look, it's not the players. It's not their fault. These guys should have been rapt to be selected, and I hope they are, because representing your country always is an absolute honour and a huge privilege. My beef is with the fishheads who run the game over there, whose cricket balls are obviously in a sling held by the IPL. Slaves to the dollar. Slaves to the dollar provided and promised by those T20 franchise side. They've signed away their history. They've signed away their tradition. 17 series over 92 years we've played against South Africa, and they'd never lost to us. And now, because of greed and a slave to the bottom line, they're about to be thrashed and humiliated and lose to little old New Zealand.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
Greg Martin, just minutes away. What have we got in the sports news, Lock?
Plenty, Martin. Plenty as always. And being a Thursday, there's a little more news around than what there would be on, say, a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I'll start off with some cricket news. Daryl Mitchell, probably our favourite black cap, right?
Oh, I think so.
I mean, right now, I'm all Team Rutchin.
I'm so, I know all of that, and Kane always.
And Kane, and Team, of course, Team Kane, yep.
Something about Daryl Mitchell that I just love. I just think that if, I don't know, for most of us numpties, if you ever played for New Zealand, I would want to behave and represent myself like that guy.
Consistency.
He just seems such
passion.
a proud Kiwi.
He's always showing emotion in a good way as well.
But he's also, he's just gutsy. You know that he never gives up. He never gives in.
Yeah.
Makes the most of his talent. Love you, Dazza.
Well, Darren Mitchell is out of the second test against South Africa.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't love you anymore, Daz.
He's out of the second test against South Africa
Bloody hell.
and the T20 series against Australia. Is there any point saying T20I when you're talking about a series between New Zealand and Australia?
Not really.
It's a given that it's an international series.
Isn't it?
Yeah. This is due to an ongoing foot injury, though. Is that T20 series against Australia before or after the tests?
Good point.
I think it's before, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll have a look.
If it's after, then that means that Darren Mitchell's not playing in the test, but they would have specified that. So he should be all good to go for those test matches against Australia, all going to plan. Black Caps batter Kane Williamson has pulled clear atop the standings as the world's top-ranked test batsman after his 2 centuries against South Africa in that first test, wrapped up yesterday, of course. Williamson was on top already, but that lead, if you will, if you want to call it that, on top of these rankings, has extended. He sits on 864 ranking points, well clear of Steve Smith, who's on 818, and Joe Root on 797. Daryl Mitchell remains 4th on 786. So out of all the best batsmen in the world, the best test batters, the ones who slug away and get splendid numbers, one of our all-rounders is sitting 4th, and it's Daryl Mitchell.
So where are the Indians on that
Yeah,
list?
well, where's Virat Kohli? Where's Babar Azam?
Yeah, right.
What about these guys? Welshman Lee Halfpenny's future in Super Rugby Pacific is uncertain. He has suffered a torn pec muscle that occurred during the pre-season match between the Crusaders, his team, and Munster. That was over the weekend. Crusaders assistant Tamati Ellison says that they're hopeful Halfpenny can make an appearance before the end of the Super Rugby season. And there was someone, I don't know if it was in the NRL, it might have been in Super Rugby or the All Blacks, I can't remember, but there was someone in one of those sports last year who got a torn pec early in the season and did come back sort of towards the end. So it sounds bad, but it's not one of those injuries that I think is going to keep you out for 6, 7, 8 months. So he should be able to make an appearance, all going to plan. Lee Halfpenny for the Crusaders. Golf news, Tiger Woods will make his first competitive start of 2024 at next week's Genesis Invitational. The 15 times major winner has confirmed today. FA Cup 4th round replays on earlier today. Chelsea beating Aston Villa 3-1. They've put those 2 league losses behind them, but it's a cup game, so Nottingham Forest knocking out Bristol City. They went to penalties. 5-3. Forest won that on penalties. And by the looks of things, that's pretty much all that is going around in the world of sport right now. So that is what is making news, Martin.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
Super Bowl Monday, the 2 best teams in the competition lining up, squaring off for the second time in 5 seasons. This is the Kansas City Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champs, up against the San Francisco 49ers, who are slight favourites. Randy Cross played in 3 Super Bowls. He's got 3 rings. He won each of them. Joe Montana, the legend, was his quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. His thoughts right across what's going to happen on Monday. Well, are these the 2 best teams? I know that the NFC top seed are there, but obviously KC weren't the top seed. But in your mind, are these the 2 best teams in the league this year?
Actually, I'm a little surprised. I think the 2 best teams for the better part of this season were Baltimore and San Francisco. But Kansas City, to their credit, was able to go to Baltimore and knock them off and suppress, Jackson's ability to really make plays. And that was the difference. They got themselves another trip to the Super Bowl, and they're putting a pretty good run together.
So their ability to analyse that particular offense and shut it down, how much is of a worry is that then for San Francisco?
It's not totally dissimilar to what San Francisco does. They're both predicated on having a very good physical running game and offensive line. They both like to use multiple tight ends. They both like to do a lot of different formations and a lot of different motion out of those formations that make the defense sort of declare to the quarterback as to what they're going to do, whether it's man on one side or zone on the other, or, exactly what's going on, which is an advantage to a guy like Patrick Mahomes, or for that matter, even to Brock Purdy on the other side. When you can get those kind of tells out of a defense, it really makes your job, it doesn't make it easier, but it makes the reading of the defense much simpler.
On the San Francisco side, this is, Mr. Irrelevant. We all know that. It's a great storyline with Brock Purdy. This is another step up again. How confident are you that he can be the guy to lead your old team to glory on Monday?
Well, the great thing about him, despite all the naysayers that want to take shots at him on the way up here, is you can make the statement that he didn't play well the last 2 playoff games, and you would be 100% accurate. He did not play his best the last 2 games. What he did do was in the big spots, when they got the opportunities, when they had to have the yards, when he had to scramble and get a first down, when he had to throw a touchdown, to get the lead, he did it. And, ultimately in this game, that's really what it's all about. It's, there's an old famous Broadway play called Glengarry Glen Ross.
I know it well.
With a great line, a great line in it that said, "Coffee's for closers." And Brock Purdy has proven through the course of, these last 2 years, but especially, 2023 and into 24 here, that, he's a serious coffee drinker. He enjoys the closing moments of games.
The keys for your 49ers, that offense, with Debo and obviously McCaffrey and Kittle, you just say those 3 names. Those are 3 of the best guys in the business. If those 3 guys are making yards, say they make 50 to 60 each, is that the winning of the game for you?
That's pretty close. You look at this, I think these offenses, like I said, are pretty close together as to what they want to do. And they've got sort of both have a little bit of the same DNA in that they both want to run the ball and they both want to be able to play action. The difference is Kansas City, with their coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, probably runs more man than almost anybody else in the league. And that really enables them to get pressure on a quarterback with only maybe at times 4 guys or even 5 guys rushing. And that's a real advantage. And, what San Francisco is going to have to do, they've got to be able to run the ball effectively. And that's also been something on the other side of the ball for the 49ers, that they've had some serious issues the last 2 weeks. The last 2 times they've been on the field, their opponents have ran the ball really, really well against them. And if Kansas City can run equally as well as, the last 2 opponents, they're going to have a hard time beating the Chiefs, because you can't beat the Chiefs if they can run the ball.
On a personal level, when you were playing, your job's to protect that guy, isn't it? How demanding physically was that as a job?
It's a little bit crazy because, obviously you can't see what you're protecting. And you almost have to have the player you're blocking has to be your eyes, because he's going to react to the quarterback. In my case, it was Joe. In this case, it's Brock. So, if I know exactly where the setup point is behind me, how many yards it is behind me, how many yards to the right or the left it is behind me, and I can use my body position to stop that defender from getting there. Well, they don't always stay in that spot. And you can say that about both these quarterbacks. They like to move around and scooch around in the pocket or run and scramble. So that makes your job a lot more difficult, because you have to be able to adjust and sort of readjust at times, and be able to reaccelerate and get back in front of somebody who's desperately trying to get away from you. So it can be very, very difficult in these situations. And like I said earlier, and the later it gets in a game, the more difficult it gets.
Randy, do you have a favourite out of the ones that you won? And how much do you actually remember about those games? Do you need to go back and watch, I'm going to say a videotape of them, because it was video back then. Do you need to, or can you visualise, if you sit there and spend a couple of minutes to yourself, can you actually take yourself right back to those games and moments? Yeah,
I think so. I can, without resorting to the VHS, if you will.
Yeah.
I can go back and recall quite a bit of those games. And it's funny because the big games you play in that you're successful are very memorable, but it's very odd in this particular sport, and I think sport in general. But the ones where you don't get it, where you're not as successful, which are kind of crushing losses, those games memory-wise, tend to stick out to me more than the wins did. The wins are surrounded by confetti and fireworks and, slaps on the back and everything else. And those are great. But when you're not successful, it can be a much more introspective occurrence. And it's something that at least I have found tends to stick with you a lot longer.
Where are your rings?
Not too far from me right now in a nice little safe.
Right. Do you get them out and look at them at a time like this?
Yeah, on occasion. I wear them when I'm on the air, when I'm doing TV, or if I'm, at an appearance type thing, because people love to see them.
Yeah.
I never wear all of them at the same time. But yeah, it's an interesting group because the first one, Super Bowl 16, was my first, championship, and that's very special. And my last one was Super Bowl 23, and that was my last game, so that's very special, in and of itself, being able to go out that way. But Super Bowl 19, the team in January of '85 that beat Dan Marino and the Dolphins, that was the best team I played on, and that was probably, to me, the most special Super Bowl.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Greg Martin, Marto joins us every single Thursday. We've got lots to talk about. Super Rugby warm-up matches, really, do they deserve to be talked about? Cricket, the South African side, the weakest side ever to leave those shores and call itself a Proteas test playing side. We're dealing with that at the moment. While Australian cricket are playing these almost meaningless one-day and T20 series against the West Indian team that performed so well to draw that to test series, but then half of them left. Yeah, they've gone off to play a very important International League T20 series in Dubai. World cricket, what the hell are you doing? Greg Martin, can you explain? A few minutes delayed because you're in one of those meetings. Let me explain how this goes, people, because in broadcasting there is an international language. There's a guy called a content director, and he's sitting there and he's saying, so what about tomorrow? What bits have you got? What are you going to make of that? Who's your top get? Was it one of those meetings, was it, mate?
Oh, yeah, and I got a warning because I went too long. I was bagging the Broncos in one break this morning. So they reviewed. So the reason they're our boss, as you know, but it's for everyone else, they're our bosses because they weren't very good at radio.
No, that's
so
right.
They make them
and they've never been on air before. Yeah, that's right. They've all wanted to be, and none of them have been capable of it, right? So, you were talking too long about the Broncos, and so you got told off about that.
Yeah, I was saying that Ezra Mann's getting a bit up himself because he just said, that 5'8" who scored 3 tries in the grand final. So he's had his pay jumped up from $250K a year to about $800,000 a year, and now he's got 7 earrings in one ear, and he's braided his hair, and he's turned into a right royal dick, and I just suggested he needs to pull his head in. But the Broncos don't have anyone like Shane Webke or any. They haven't got any old hard men, the Broncos, to tell these young blokes, pull your head in. So, and I got in trouble for going too long.
We started the program by, giving it to the South African team that they sent here. Look, I'm not anti the players at all. I mean, if you get picked to play for your country, good God, you're going to go and play for your country. But the South African Cricket Board leaving 56 of their best players behind. So let's just look at Sheffield Shield cricket, for example. Okay, I think you got, 6 sides or something like that. So pick the 9 best players from every team, leave them out because they have to play the Big Bash, and then now you select an Australian cricket team which goes over to play us or Pakistan or the West Indies or wherever the hell it is. I mean, come on, man. I mean, what are you saying? Right?
We wouldn't do that. As Australians, we wouldn't do that because we always want to win when we're Australia. We don't care about our little silly local competition. Let's remember they're South Africans. I know that'll come as a surprise, but I find them to be a little bit arrogant at times. I don't know about you or anyone else, but that might just be the ones that come to Australia. Sorry if I've said that.
No, it's a fair call, and but they do rate themselves. I mean, these guys are all talking themselves up, but you want to see, honestly, the cricket, mate. It was like watching you and me play beach cricket, cross bat, slog, sweep, thop. It's awful. It's like watching the New Zealand team play, say, the New Zealand C team. So, but hey, we'll take the win.
Did you see what happened here? Wait. See what happened in Australia here on Monday or Tuesday when the Windies played the third of the one-days? We got them out for 86.
Yeah, look,
77 in a 50-over game, not a T20. In a 50-over game, they only lasted, and it took us 6.5 overs to get the runs.
So how long was the whole game?
Foxtel wasn't 30.
Well, the whole
game went for 31 overs. It was supposed to go for 100 overs. Apparently, Foxtel have rung because they'll want their money back.
Yeah.
Because they've sold ads for 100 overs and went for 30 overs. So that's not good. Apparently, it may be the last time Steve Smith captains Australia because Foxtel would have liked him to bat first, of course, so it went into the evening. No one was home from work and the game had finished.
Well, and that was after the first one was a victory by 8 wickets with 11 overs to spare. The second was a victory by 83 runs. And this is because after that test match, didn't half the West Indian side leave to play the International League T20 in Dubai or something?
Correct.
This is where cricket has got to. And we as spectators are meant to actually still not only be interested, but pay to watch this product.
And that's why I'm saying, that's why you're angry. That's why I'm angry, because we still watch it, because we're idiots.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of idiots, Lachlan was saying that he went on to some, I don't know, some porn site or something, or TikTok Insta Dick or something like that.
I don't even know what that is.
Well, and he said that there was something from your breakfast show where you spent a whole hour eating a whole chicken.
Oh, yeah, that was last year. I wasn't real well afterwards. No, it wasn't an hour. It was to break the world record for a whole chicken eating, and I know there's a lot of your listeners would be able to scoff one, and we had a guy who managed to do it in 2 minutes or something. It took me 6.5 minutes, but I drank juice. You know the bachelor's handbag? Is that what you call them over there? The barbecue, the barbecue
bachelor's handbag. Yeah, the guy walking down the street with that holding the great. Yeah, the bachelor's handbag.
That bloke's not married.
Yeah, that bloke's his turn to cook their flatmate's dinner. Yeah, chicken. Yeah, roast chicken. Yeah.
Now, did Lachlan tell you after I ate the chicken, and it did take me longer because I'd already eaten a steak sandwich for brekkie, and then I tried to eat a chicken, which was silly. But then I drank the juice. I was a bit crooked, and I didn't turn up to work the next day. Started coming out of me about midnight. Anyway, the things you do for our job, it's like being a stuntman.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each. When the bell reminds, we move quickly on to the next topic. Yes, Super Bowl preview will be one. Lachlan, who you got, why you want them to win, what is going to be the point of difference? 6 Nations matches this weekend. Scotland versus France, and also Wales versus England. That's actually at Twickenham. Ireland versus Italy. I don't know. I always just, when it comes to the Italians playing 6 Nations, I just kind of think, well, that's just a gimme for everyone, that game, isn't it? Ricky Ponting wants to lessen the amount of T20 tournaments that players can play. How laughable is this statement a day after signing on for Major League Cricket, Ricky Ponting? Barry Richards and Graham Pollock. Who are those guys, Lachlan? I want you to explain to me those 2 names. And also, I think I've got it right. Is it Kavila Valieva? Is that her name? The banned Russian figure skater has come up with one of the best excuse/reasons yet as to why she tested positive for drugs. Super Bowl, let's kick that though. I think we're both in the 49ers camp.
Yes.
Me, the reason that I want the 49ers to win is it's just that I love the NFL so much. I don't want any team to go back-to-back. I hate the dynasty thing. I like the fact that it is such an even competition. Until Penrith, the juggernaut, came along, the NRL was like this. Oh, actually, no, that's not true because the Roosters won and the Melbourne Storm won a lot. No, the NFL...
Storm never went back-to-back, though. Legally, they never went back-to-back.
The NFL is one of those things where it just seems that every year another team comes through. I mean, you've got 5 or 6 teams that are now very consistent, got the best players, but with the salary cap, it does tend to even it out. And I'll use Detroit as a good example of that. You know, who can go from 3-13 and then 9-8 the next year and get 1 game away from the Super Bowl the following year, which gives all of us those who support loser teams like my Washington Commanders hope that it can actually happen. And look, the 49ers lost to the Chiefs 4 years ago in Super Bowl. There's a couple of guys I like in their team. I like Kittle, but I like a lot of the Kansas City players. I just don't want the same team winning all the time. That's pretty much why I'm going for the 49ers.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I mean, when you're the best team in the NFL and you have been over a period of 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is, you instantly become the villain. Unless there are fans of your team or they're people who have a soft spot for you. Now, as well as that, with the Chiefs becoming the new villain of the NFL, probably taking the mantle from the Patriots, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
They also beat my team in the Super Bowl last year. So I doubly don't like them. And also, 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl since the 90s. And when they won their 5th in the 90s, I think they were the only team to have 5 or more.
80s, yeah.
No, in the 90s. They won their 5th one in the 90s, didn't they? Steve Young.
Sorry, 94 they did too. That's right. And they've lost 2 since.
So it'd be kind of cool to see them win it. And my dad's a Niners fan, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they win it, they also then have 6 Super Bowls, which is many of the Patriots won. So
And the
there's
Steelers, yeah.
And the Steelers, yeah. So there's all kinds of reasons. Look, love to know what you think about it. 5050, whether or not you want the Chiefs or the 49ers to win. And if so, why? I just want to know why. What is the reason?
Actually, I will say one thing quickly. Where I don't actually mind the Chiefs winning is that it's not as if it's the Cowboys or the Niners or the Steelers or the Patriots or the Packers who have had
not big
periods,
teams.
big names, but they've had periods of success in the past. The Chiefs had won 1 Super Bowl and had been to 1, maybe 2, I could be wrong, up until...
Yeah, they won it back in the 60s, didn't they? They were one of the
They won Super Bowl 3 or 4.
Yeah, AFL teams. Yeah, AFC teams. No, the American Football League it was.
Yeah, AFL and then they had the merger,
Yeah, that's right, okay. 6 nations this weekend. Scotland against France. And then England playing Wales at Twickers. Who you got?
Well, you don't want to discuss Ireland, Italy?
Don't, no. No, because Ireland are going to win, just like we are going to dick South Africa in the second cricket test.
England, Wales, I'd say England.
Oh, anyone but England. Come on, man.
Well, I'd rather Wales, but neither are that good.
No.
And both really overachieved at the World Cup, I think. But I'd probably lean towards England because they're at home.
Shouldn't they be a lot better than what they are?
Well, they should. They've got some good
money
players.
and resources.
Money and resources. They've got some good players. But this has been them probably since they won the World Cup, to be fair.
Yeah,
they've always had good players and they've always underperformed.
Well, in 2019.
Apart from 2019, yeah. So I'd lean towards England just. Gosh. But they don't have Owen Farrell or... Is Marcus Smith still out?
Mm-hmm.
Scotland, France. That's in Scotland. That'll be good. I'd say France, but... That could be a flip of the coin.
Ricky Ponting wants to lessen the amount of...
The new big star of Major League Cricket.
That's right. I mean, it's a little hypocritical, isn't it, for a guy that just sucks as much money out of T20 cricket as he possibly can. He'd take any job going, Ricky Ponting, as is evident by the fact he's now the coach of a team in Major League Cricket, and now is saying that the players should be rationed as to how many T20 tournaments they can play. Yeah, I agree with him, but I just don't think he's the guy that should be saying this.
It's like Pep Guardiola coming out and having a go at Newcastle being bought by Saudi Arabia.
It's rich buggers and have all that money to spend.
All you need is money to be relevant.
That's it.
Hold up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with them as well, but it's kind of a bit strange when you've just taken a job that's probably paying quite well.
I think so. Do you think that's the reason he's doing it, or do you think he's there to develop cricket and the market that's
to put it on the map? He's putting bums on seats. Yeah, they're not there to see the players. They're there to see the coach on the sidelines.
South Africa yesterday thrashed them. I don't know what else there is to say about that test match. Look, I'm, reveling obviously in the performance of the New Zealand team, especially our batters. And we dicked them by 300 runs, or there or thereabouts. So it was 289 or something. And we're going to do it again in Hamilton. And as I said yesterday, all I want our Black Caps team to throttle them. And look, I've got nothing against the South African players or their side, but I just think that if you're going to send over... Look, it's like us sending the All Blacks 15 to play the Springboks in Test rugby. We deserve to be dicked by 50 or 60 points, don't we? It's insulting is what it is.
Well, they haven't selected their 57 best players or something.
56 best players.
56. So take out the 56 best New Zealand rugby players and then make up a team.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And you can paint it and couch it any which way. It is. It's completely wrong. Considering that, as I keep saying, there's history and tradition attached to this. If these records don't mean anything, then the sport doesn't mean anything. Because in another 20 years' time, none of this will be meaningful. That's my point. It's like, and I was so pleased last year when Justin Marshall kept bringing up this All Black side has lost all these records that were proudly defended by men in the past who didn't earn any money for creating those records and maintaining those records. And then 100 years later, we've never lost to Argentina. Well, you guys have lost home and away to them. You should wear that on your All Black sleeve forever.
It should be on your profile.
That's your legacy.
Definitely.
That's what you've left. And for the South African cricket, it's the same. So I want to ask you about two players, Barry Richards and Graham Pollock. Now, nobody knows who these guys are. Look, when I started watching cricket, South African cricket, they came back in the wilderness in 1992 to play the One Day World Cup. Previous to that, I'd never watched any South African cricket because it was all rebel tours. And a rebel tour was a bunch of players like the Cavaliers in 1986, the All Blacks, who weren't a proper England team, just a bunch of individuals who'd all of a sudden all arrive in South Africa on the same day on the same flight, and they'd be called the Invitation 11 or something, and they'd play a series of test matches against South Africa. And it was really distasteful because it was all the apartheid era, and I just took no interest in it at all. But these two players, Barry Richards and Graham Pollock, were considered two of the very best batsmen ever to play the game in the 1970s. And nobody knows who they are because they never got to play test cricket. So those guys didn't get to play, but you're prepared to send a G team over here called a test side. It's just everything about it's wrong, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. I mean,
and these excuses about, oh, no, all the money's needed, the T20 money. Really? So what are we going to see in the next 5 years? What are we going to see? A South African side stacked with players from the townships, are we?
Well, is it going to spread into all the other countries as well?
Yeah.
Is it going to be... Because that South African T20 league, is it run by Indian billionaires?
It's run by the IPL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who've got a bunch of leagues around the world. So this is going to happen.
They've also got one going in Bangladesh at the moment and this international one in Dubai. Who cares about any of them? Who's watching any of this?
No one.
Do you know anybody that knows anybody that's heard of anybody that is watching the South African T20 series?
Essentially what's going to happen is there's going to be test series between, say, England and South Africa, or maybe India and Bangladesh, or whatever. And these teams that have these T20 leagues, if it overlaps with those test series, they're going to pull the best players out of their test team and have them their T20 leagues. Yep. So you're going to and the fans are going to get turned off because it won't be the big name players, won't be as good in terms of cricket and the product. So they're going to get turned off. And meanwhile, no one's watching those T20 leagues because no one gives a toss about them. And so eventually, in 5 to 10 years, you're going to get to a point where you've actually minimised cricket viewing across the globe in favour of just getting a bit more money in these T20 leagues. And they're not going to care. The organisers aren't going to care because they've got their money.
Totally agree. That's it. Anyway, let's go to Valietta. Okay, well, can you find it? What's her first name? This is the Russian ice skater. You'll know the story, people. And she got done.
Kamila Valieva.
Okay. So
she's 17. Jeez.
Yeah, so she might be 19 now. I think she got done 2 years. She got done when she was 15, okay, for having failing a dope test in Russia. Now, the great thing about it is the Russian anti-doping agency said their conclusion was that she bore no fault or negligence for having drugs in her system. Well, that was overturned by WADA, who said, no, you're a drug cheat. Her excuse now is that the reason she had drugs in her system is because of a strawberry dessert which was prepared on a chopping board that her grandfather used to crush up his heart medication pills. And if it wasn't that, she said, well, then he puts those pills in a glass of water and I maybe had a sip out of that water.
So they could sit there and go, no, that didn't happen with the strawberry ice cream dessert yogurt thing. She goes, oh, no, okay, it was the glass. Well, no, that didn't happen. Oh, okay, well, he dropped some on the dog and I gave the dog a kiss. I mean, you can spin it any way you want.
Now, the Court of Arbitration in Sport have found that this excuse is not corroborated by any concrete evidence whatsoever, right? Yeah. But I like the fact that she's dug deep down into the well of crap and just thought, what is the worst thing I can drag up from here and use as an excuse? Now, we've had alongside Contador, the steroid steak Tour de France winner, right? I ate a steroid steak. We have had Richard Gasquet, who said the cocaine in his system was kissing a girl on the lips at a nightclub, right? And we've had Petra Korda, who said that the drugs in his system was because somebody had put steroid toothpaste on his toothbrush. So I applaud the young lady for coming up with what has got to be, as I say, one of the best, worst excuses ever for the fact that you're a drug cheat.
I love the cocaine one.
Because
he's using it as a way to kind of like, oh, yeah, I was pulling girls at nightclubs.
That's it,
Look at me. Yeah,
that's it.
Oh, a bit of coke on her lips. Well,
tongue to girl.
I didn't know because, my eyes were closed and I was sticking my tongue down.
That's it. League. Well, it's just over 3 weeks before the season is underway. Kicking off in Vegas as well, with the double barrel season openers. Andy Raymond Unfiltered. That's the name of the man's podcast. That's his Twitter handle. He joins us normally on a Wednesday, but today's Thursday because of the shortened week. And we're talking all the league news from the NRL. So a couple of names I'm going to throw at you. Curtis Scott, Ezra Mann, and let's start with Ryan Pappenhausen. And I loved this piece of news that he's going to be available for the Storm versus the Bulldogs in pre-season. Now, I don't care about pre-season. I don't care about pre-season what it is. It's called pre-season for a reason because it's not a bloody season. But this guy has just gone through hell in terms of his injuries, and it was heartbreaking last year to watch him come back again and do it again. Andy, I fear for him. I fear that, he's never going to be the player that he once was, but I'm looking forward to seeing him playing again.
Mate, his form run equated to about 8 weeks of footy, and he showed us what he is capable of. My kids went to school with Ryan, so I've known him since a 4 or 5. Yeah, yep. I've known him since a 4 or 5 year old. Lovely family. But Ryan, as an athlete, has always had significant and long-term injury problems. Always. Throughout his junior representative career, it catches up. You can't keep having, as a young man, a young athlete, you can't keep having major operations year on year and 8-month, rehabilitation courses. It just doesn't work. And at some stage, it's going to be make or break for Ryan. It's also going to be make or break for the Storm. Here's a hypothetical. The Storm, a couple of years ago, had 2 fullbacks. One was Ryan Pappenhausen, one was Nico Hines. Ryan Pappenhausen was offered about 2.5 times the amount of money to stay than Nico Hines was. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. We all know that. But in hindsight, who would have the Storm probably been getting better value out of? Who would have the Storm been better off signing? Unfortunately, it's probably Nico. And when I say unfortunately for Ryan, because I want to see him string together games. I want to see him at his football because he's an exciting little bugger to watch.
He is. He's brilliant.
But, mate, it is getting very, very close to decision time for Ryan Pappenhausen, but on Ryan Pappenhausen. And he has got to play not 16 games in a season because of a shoulder, a knee, an ankle, a concussion. He's got to play 22 games.
Curtis Scott. Now, I don't know whether you know this story, people.
No. I'm not going there, mate.
You're not
I'm not going there, and this is the reason. This is a guy that's abused his missus terribly, and found out in court. This is a guy that abused her again, and family members. But now certain media agencies, because they've got him boxing on their channel, want to publicise him. Absolute crap. What does this say about respect for women?
Well, it's platitudes. Look, and if the NRL allow this guy to come back, I totally agree with you. This women in league round and all the other crap that they have introduced because they want to cover up the actions of a very small proportion of their bonehead players gets thrown out the window and is just exposed as the joke that it is. This guy, ladies and gentlemen, serial offender in terms of beating women, convicted for it. Now he's got a career in boxing. I mean, that's offensive enough as it is. And now he wants to come back and play for the Canberra Raiders. Yeah, and there's this small groundswell amongst some media. And this is a clickbait story is what it is, Andy, which is why some of the mainstream media pick it up. And then, of course, you'll get the odd extremist who they'll interview. Oh, he's allowed a second chance. He had a second, third, fourth, fifth, and 9,000th chance is what he did.
Yep. He's had everyone's entitled to a chance and a mistake or two. And God knows I've exceeded that. And I don't get any chances in certain parts of my life anymore. But this guy's had his chances. He's proven that he's an average human being and he doesn't deserve any more chances in the public spotlight. Go and get a job and prove yourself in the community before you want to prove yourself under the spotlight. There's got to be better things to talk about,
okay,
Marty.
Let's talk about Ezra Mann then and this remarkable contract that he's been given. And we had Greg Martin on the program earlier and he was actually giving it to him big time, saying he's got a brand new contract now. He's got 7 earrings. He's got cornrows. He's got... Look, us oldies, we don't understand any of this stuff, but this is what the young people do. They tattoo their bodies, their faces. They like to pretend they've been in prison and everything else. I just want to talk about the fact that he's actually a really good player. Is he that essential to the Broncos that they have to quadruple his salary?
They certainly had to increase, mate. They certainly had to increase because he was on way less than what he should have been initially, and that there was always going to be an upgrade there. As a young, maturing player, you earn X amount. Then your next contract, if you're going well, you earn X plus 20% or 40% or whatever it may be. But your money goes up in your rugby league career because if it's going down, you're going the wrong way Ezra Mam, yes, very important. Is he the guy to lead the Broncos? I'm going to say no. And I say that because I think he's the instinctive player. I think he's the magician on the field. And the magicians are the tricky ones. They're not always the best ones in terms of leadership. So I think a great signing. They had to forego Kurt Capewell, who, again, is going to be the buy of the year for your Warriors. They had to forgo Kurt Capewell to accommodate Ezra Mam. So there's one loss. There was Herbie Farnworth. There was also Thomas Flegler looking at contracts. They've both gone. So they needed a re-signing, the Brisbane Broncos. They've certainly got one. And my mail is, over the next fortnight, Adam Reynolds will be signing a one-year extension to go beyond 2024 into 2025. It will be a playing and or transitioning into coaching role too. Adam loves his time north of the border, wants to stay here post-playing career, and he is happily accepting a significant pay cut to stay with this Broncos side.
Miles Davis, blah, blah, blah. He joins us every week. Lots to talk about. The England rugby team, Six Nations, biggest game this weekend is the Poms versus the Tafs. As an England rugby fan, I mean, you're hated by the whole world, but especially those Celtic countries. Which of the rivalries does Miles endure or enjoy the most? Plus, we'll talk cricket, of course, that South African series. Premier League this weekend, and the comments from the Irish saying that, that match with France and the Six Nations should have been the Rugby World Cup final. Does he agree with any of that? Miles, let's talk Six Nations to start with. I'm intrigued as to, you got Wales this weekend. As an England man, as an England rugby fan, which of those teams in the Six Nations do you despise the most? Is it the Mix, the Tafs, the Frogs, or the Jocks?
I think it's got to be the Welsh. I mean, but it's not really despise. You know what it's like in rugby? There's respect in rugby. It's football where you hate people. But the team that I probably, because of growing up as a kid, the Welsh were often dominant. They dominated Lions sides in selection. They more often than not beat England. So I think Wales is probably what I'll be looking for. But to be honest, this could be, other than Italy, this could be a battle for the wooden spooners between England and Wales. Although the Tafs nearly got out of jail on the weekend, that Scottish side are a really rapidly developing side. The last 4 or 5 years, they've just been getting better and better. So I wasn't surprised to see them win. I was surprised to see Wales come back. But this England side are just abject. I wanted Razor to be the coach. They, for whatever reason, they decided that they wanted an English coach. Steve Borthwick, I find uninspiring, and I've seen nothing since his appointment to make me change my mind on that. England are there's so much talent in England, and yet no one seems to be able to put it together.
Why is that? Because even at the World Cup last year, I mean, just an awful team to watch. Sure, you're getting some results and got through to the semi-finals, and I applaud that. And it's that kind of tournament where results count more than anything else, as we know. But at the same time, it's like your football team, isn't it? You've got all of these players, but nobody can seem to coordinate and actually get the very best out of the very best players.
Yeah, I've no idea what it is, whether it's sort of, this constant expectation, but the All Blacks seem to manage that all right, and they've probably got more expectation on them than any other side in professional sport. So, I honestly don't know what it is, but it's really frustrating. When I look back to that 2003 side, I mean, they were scoring. I think they averaged over a period of 2 years. I remember looking the stats up. They averaged something like 4 tries a game. They beat all the 3 big Southern Hemisphere sides home and away in that sort of 2-year period. And they just played really attacking rugby, and it seems to have gone backwards since then. Like 2019, they were a really good side. We made the semis and almost made the final. I mean, the All Blacks would have taken England apart in that final, but that was purely on Dutch, just like in 2007, where England basically got to the final despite getting pounded in the first game because the players hung in together and ignored the coach.
Yeah, and then I sit there and I just think, I look at the Premier League and I look at your West Ham side and I think they're on the same boat, aren't they?
Oh, mate, we're worse than England with Southgate. Everyone's going, oh, look at it. It's brilliant, isn't it? Look, you've won a European trophy last year. You're seventh in the table. You should be excited. Football's about entertainment, and David Moyes hasn't got a clue. He's a dinosaur. He's fearful. He's frightened, just like Southgate. And the players that we've got, I mean, how can you have, like last season, we had Declan Rice, Brazil's number 10, Italy's number 9, and we lose at home to Blackburn. Play 5 at the back. It's just, honestly, people go on about, oh, you should be getting this, you should be happy about that. Don't tell me what I should be bloody happy about, mate. You go, if you just, and it's the one thing, oh, yeah, look, we got a draw, we must be brilliant. We won that game, it must be brilliant. It's bloody awful. Even winning that European trophy last year, watching most of the games, we were turgid to watch and somehow managed to scrape our way through. Well done. But we were playing sides that, frankly, most second division sides would have beaten.
Paperboy. Who's old enough to remember the Paperboy? Same as the milkman. Getting up at 5 a.m. on your bike on a cold bloody day, delivering papers, having to stuff them in the letterbox and everything else. Back in the day when children worked, Lachlan.
I used to do circling when I was younger.
Circling?
Yeah, like paper routes.
Yeah, okay, well, that's what a paper boy is. So it's called circling.
Well,
God, that sounds like it's something.
We need to talk.
Oh, yeah, we do need to talk.
We need to talk.
No, circling. Good God, I tell you what, I'm afraid of looking that up on the internet because I know it's going to involve filthy old men with no underpants is what it is, isn't it? It's a technique.
Mate, the letterboxes have signs saying no circulars.
We need to talk.
We need to play.
We need to talk.
Your favourite game, which is called?
Well, it's not the NBA right now. It's not the Premier League because we're not going to win the title. I guess it's what's more chance of happening.
Yes, it is, Lachlan, where I present 2 scenarios and you tell me what is more chance of happening. Now, we're going to combine it with also what you should be watching this weekend on the tally.
I got a nice fat list for that.
49ers to beat the Chiefs and win Super Bowl Monday. They're the fractional favourites, okay, as far as the bookies go, Caesars in Vegas. And we're just going to go through a list of games here, people, because these are the games that I think that most of us will probably want to watch this weekend, okay?
Next!
49ers beat the Chiefs or Scotland beat France? What has more chance of happening?
49ers beat the Chiefs. Absolutely.
Look, the Jocks are a good team.
Yes, but France were a better team. Didn't have 15 men last week. And Ireland got 2 of their tries quite late on, didn't
they did. Yeah, well, they got them at the garbage time end of the game when the French are tired. If that game, to me, the game kind of ended as a contest after about 50 minutes when France got within about 6 or 7 points. And at that stage, the legs went to the narrow. What is more chance of happening then? That San Francisco win their 6th Super Bowl on Monday or Wales beat England at Twickers in the Six Nations?
England aren't good.
Well, neither are Wales.
No.
Look, let's be honest. The 49ers and the Chiefs is one of the most even Super Bowls we've had in years, isn't it? I mean, it is a coin toss, isn't it? These two teams. It's going to come down, hopefully, to the last play. I just love the Super Bowl being close. But I'm going back through, recent. I mean, I didn't think last year was as close as this. I think these two teams are more evenly matched than I've seen in years, this Super Bowl. So it's that close. So Wales versus England. Probably that close as well. 2 really average teams.
Who last week, I think England were more disappointing last week because they played a weaker opponent.
Well, which Wales side did we see? The one that was 27 points down or the one that came back and scored 26 points?
Yeah. I'm going to say there's more chance that Wales beat England, actually.
Yeah.
Next!
What is more chance of happening? Let's run through some cricket. Australia beat the West Indies in the first T20 tomorrow.
Yeah, that's prime time viewing, isn't it?
Well, this is what we've been talking about with Andy Raymond, with Marto today as well. This is what you're doing to yourself, cricket. These matches are meaningless. You've had 3 one-dayers against the West Indies side that produced a brilliant performance in the second test. Then all their players leave to go play some league in Dubai. You're left with a bunch of no-names. You're left with a bunch of 3rd and 4th division players like the South Africans who've come here. And Australia beat you by 11 wickets, 12 wickets, 13 wickets. A day-night game that lasted 9 overs. No, 6.5 overs Australia took. They bowled the West Indies out in 20 overs and then they took 6.5.
Yeah. What a waste.
And now you've got 3 T20s between these two teams. The same Australian team
Yeah.
But they're not. At least the Aussies are doing the decent thing. They're just picking guys that you've never heard of before, right? But who's going to watch it?
Not me.
Foxtel have bought the rights to it. Advertisers are paying good money for the ads in it. Who's watching?
Next!
Well done, cricket. What is more chance happening? The 49ers beat the Chiefs, win the Super Bowl, or India? India beat England in the third test. That starts next Thursday. That series is squared
it's
at once.
today, yeah.
We'll talk more about that one next week. But
Or India beat England or England beat India?
India beat England.
Oh, more chance that India beat England, I'd say.
Then the 49ers beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Are you backing the Chiefs here?
No, I think the Chiefs should be favourites. I tell you what, I've looked at the odds. The Chiefs, the line's probably moved in the last week and a half. The Chiefs were 3.5 point underdogs on Bet365.
I think it's 1.5 now. It's got to.
Yeah, well, the US is different to Bet365.
Okay, right.
So it could.
Well, 3 points is one play. That's all it is, mate.
Yeah, but I mean, when you've got a match like this, that's so I think it's even as well. And I would have thought, just by the way they went on the road to beat the Bills and the Ravens with a 2-week break, I just thought the bookies would have loved them a lot more.
Plus, also the defending champ.
Next!
Yeah, but no one's ever won it back-to-back since the Pats in 2005. So, more chance of 49ers. Oh, no. I said India beating England today. Yeah, more chance India beating England.
What is more chance of happening then? The 49ers win their 6th Super Bowl over the Chiefs, or Nepal beat Canada.
What?
In the first of their 3 one-dayers starting today at 4:30, Lachlan.
Where did you find that? Is that on TVNZ Plus? Because they've got to find some other sport to play.
That's right. I don't know where you can watch this, but this is how much meaningless, idiotic cricket is going on at the moment. I've even got. Well, look, Sri Lanka are playing Afghanistan in the first of their 3 ODIs tomorrow. Nepal and Canada are playing the first of their 3 today.
Canada are half
50
decent
over matches.
Canada aren't too bad at cricket.
Well, no,
I can name a player. Yeah, Anderson Cummins, the West Indian bowler. He played for Canada. He also dated my auntie. That's how I know him.
When?
Oh, look at when the West Indies toured us in like the 80s.
No, I'm sorry. When you say they dated, what do you mean they dated?
Well,
they were boyfriend and girlfriend?
Well, I think that's what I was told when I was young.
For a whole night?
When I was young.
Good God, Lachlan.
That's what I was told.
Does your auntie have any children? Can any of them bowl a cricket, Paul? Do they look like Courtney Walsh? What is more chance of happening? The 49ers beat the Chiefs and win Super Bowl. Is it 58? I think it's 58.
It is 58, yep.
Or the Phoenix beat Western United Saturday night in Wellington.
Well, they've drawn 2 games now in a row. They've drawn 3 of the last 4.
Western United are the worst. They're the bottom of the league. Phoenix are top of the league.
I'd say the Phoenix one.
Well, it's got to be, and it's got to be at home. You've got to take care of business in this way.
It sounds really harsh. I don't want this to happen, but I'm just waiting for them to fall off a bit, the Phoenix.
I think everyone in the league is, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're a false team. I think that they deserve where they are.
Yeah,
because
I don't know if they're the best team in the A-League.
But I don't know if there is a best team at the moment, because the team that's supposedly the best has only won 6 games out of 15
and the
games.
defending champions are down in about 4th or 5th.
Yeah. So
next,
what is more chance of happening? The 49ers, bookies' favourites, win that Super Bowl, or the Breakers beat the Hawks tomorrow.
Breakers beat the Hawks. I'm all on the Breakers wagon.
Or the Melbourne United beat the Breakers on Sunday then.
Yeah.
Now, the Breakers were facing having to win every one of their final 4 games, but they won in Perth. And that was the game that no one expected them to win.
Yeah.
So now probably 3 out of the 4. They got to take care of business at home. You think they beat the Hawks? But what about Melbourne United away?
Melbourne are the best team in the comp. So no, they don't win that.
They don't win that one?
Nope.
So they split this 1-1, the Breakers.
Yep.
Okay.
next.
Finally, we'll finish with the Premier
Tell you what,
League.
there's actually another game to keep tabs on. That's the Brisbane Bullets on Friday. They play Adelaide, and if the Bullets lose, the Breakers then jump up to 6th if they can win.
Good to keep tabs on.
Yeah.
Couple to go then. Premier League.
Next.
I don't want to talk about that.
49ers beat the Chiefs, or Man City beat Everton on Sunday morning and go top before you play.
Oh, Man City beat Everton.
It's a
This is one of my don't watches because they're just going to march on and win every game now, aren't they? They're going to beat
But
everyone.
we knew this at the start
They're
of the
gonna blow
season. I told you this. I said
there
that
was
they
a
will win
little bit of
15 in a
hope.
row. They're
There
the
was a
only team.
little bit of hope from me that when we were about 5 or 6 points ahead of them before we'd played Arsenal, I thought, well, you never know. I still would have said City to
Put
win
some
it.
pressure on them. Get an 8-point lead. They might drop another game.
Well, 2 years ago, it was the year where they were down 2-0 to Villa on the last day of the season, and all we needed was a goal to get ahead of Wolves, I think it was, but they ended up winning the game anyway.
They came back and won 3-2 with the 3 goals in about 5 minutes.
BS.
I was watching that game.
Yeah, I was too. That year, I looked back at the table before, Liverpool were down about 8 or 9 points in January or February and closed it down to 1 point with about 6 or 7 games left, and then we just went toe-to-toe with them. So look, hey, City could jump ahead of us by a couple of points, but we could come back.
Finally then, my mob. 49ers beat the Chiefs in Super Bowl, or Man United go to Villa.
No, that's not happening.
You see, I knew you'd say.
49ers beat the... I'm not going to give your team any credit.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.